I didn't storm out. There was no desk-clearing tantrum, no email copying the CEO, no dramatic speech about corporate values. I simply stood up from my workstation at 3:12 a.m. On March 31st, unplugged my headset, and walked away from 20 years of loyalty that had just been valued at exactly $40,000 less than some kid who couldn't tell the difference between a classified defense system and a smartphone app. My name is Henry Pierce. I'm 58 years old, and this is how I learned that teaching someone everything you know is the fastest way to make yourself expendable. The whole thing started 16 months ago when Summit Defense Systems hired this bright kid, Adrian Wells, fresh out of McKinsey with an MBA and a head full of buzzwords about digital transformation. He was 29, ambitious, and spoke fluent corporate nonsense. The kind of guy who could turn our system as broken into we should leverage synergistic solutions to optimize our technological infrastructure. I'd been at Summit for 20 years by then. Started there right after I got out of the Marines. 20 years fixing electronics on everything from Humvees to helicopters teaches you a thing or two about keeping mission-critical systems running under pressure. No room for failure when you're in a forward operating base with 200 other guys depending on your communication staying up. That discipline served me well in civilian life. Summit wasn't glamorous work, but it was solid. We built guidance systems for military aircraft and naval vessels. The kind of components that had to be perfect because people's lives depended on them. Our $400 million operation ran on a complex web of legacy systems that I'd spent 20 years learning, maintaining, and occasionally cursing at during 3 a.m. emergencies. The thing about defense contracting is that it's not like running a website. When our systems go down, multi-million-dollar Pentagon contracts are at risk. When we can't deliver on time, the Department of Defense starts looking for new suppliers. There's no "we'll patch it Monday" when national security is involved. I'd worked my way up from junior systems analyst to senior defense systems engineer. Over those 20 years, I knew every quirk of our classified networks, every workaround that kept things running, every integration point between our manufacturing, testing, and delivery systems. Most importantly, I knew why things were built the way they were. That institutional knowledge isn't something you pick up from a consulting manual. Enter Adrian Wells, Digital Transformation Specialist. Nice title. His first day, Rachel Cooper, our operations director, asked me to show him around our IT infrastructure. "Henry, I need you to give Adrian the full tour," Rachel said during our Monday morning stand-up. "Help him understand how everything connects. You know our systems better than anyone." "Sure thing," I said. "How deep do you want me to go?" "Deep. Adrian's going to be working on some modernization initiatives. He needs to understand the foundation before he can recommend improvements." So I did. I spent hours with the kid walking him through our legacy systems, explaining why we couldn't just move everything to the cloud like he kept suggesting. "Why can't we just migrate this to AWS?" Adrian asked, pointing at our manufacturing control dashboard. "Because our production floor needs millisecond response times," I explained. "Cloud latency would kill us. When a missile guidance system is being calibrated, you can't afford a 50 millisecond delay because some server in Virginia is having a bad day." "But surely there's a hybrid approach. Our testing systems require real-time data feeds from 73 different machines. Our quality control has to track 80,000 unique part numbers across 4 secure facilities with 99.99% accuracy because the Pentagon doesn't accept close enough." Adrian nodded and took notes. Lots of notes. "This is fascinating," he said. "I can see why the infrastructure has evolved this way. But there have to be opportunities for optimization without compromising security or performance." The kid was eager to learn. I'll give him that. Asked good questions, seemed genuinely interested in understanding the complexity of what we'd built over the years. Reminded me of myself when I was starting out, hungry for knowledge, wanting to make a difference. I spent 3 weeks giving Adrian what amounted to a masterclass in defense systems engineering. I walked him through our database architecture, explained our backup and redundancy systems, showed him how our quality control integration worked. I even shared some of the unofficial workarounds I'd developed over the years, the kind of tribal knowledge that keeps things running when the manuals fail you. "You know," Adrian said during one of our sessions, "you should really document all this. This institutional knowledge is incredibly valuable." "I've been telling management that for years," I replied, "but documentation doesn't get prioritized when everything's working. Maybe that's something I could help with." Part of my digital transformation initiative could include knowledge management systems. I liked that idea. Finally, someone who understood that you can't modernize what you don't understand. By month 3, something shifted. Adrian started showing up to meetings I'd never heard about. He began talking about modernization opportunities and infrastructure optimization initiatives in emails that copied the executive team. One Thursday, I ran into him coming out of the conference room after what looked like a pretty serious discussion with Rachel and Scott Miller, our VP of Engineering. "How'd the meeting go?" I asked. "Good. Really good. We're identifying some exciting opportunities to leverage existing system knowledge and build on institutional expertise." Corporate speak. I'd heard it before, but coming from Adrian, it felt different. Like my technical explanations were being translated into executive language, but without my name attached. "What kind of opportunities?" "I'll keep you posted," Adrian said, already walking toward his office. "Thanks again for all the background you've given me. It's been invaluable. That word would come back to bite me later. By month 6, Adrian was getting invited to strategic planning sessions that I'd never even known existed. By month 9, he had his own budget for digital transformation projects. By month 12, executives were praising his innovative approach to legacy system modernization. All of it built on foundations I'd explained to him during those early training sessions. The turning point came during a company-wide meeting in February. Scott Miller was presenting the quarterly results to the entire engineering division, about 150 of us packed into the main conference room. "I want to recognize some exceptional work this quarter," Scott said, clicking through his PowerPoint. "Adrian Wells has spearheaded our digital transformation initiative with some truly innovative approaches to infrastructure modernization." I watched from the back of the room as Adrian stood up briefly, nodded to acknowledge the applause. The next slide showed his project timeline, a detailed roadmap for upgrading our legacy systems that looked awfully familiar. Adrian's analysis of our current infrastructure bottlenecks has identified millions in potential efficiency gains. Scott continued. His recommendations for phased modernization will allow us to maintain operational security while improving performance. After the meeting, I cornered Adrian in the hallway. "Nice presentation," I said. "That phased modernization approach, where'd you come up with that?" Adrian looked uncomfortable for the first time since I'd known him. "Well, it's based on industry best practices, combined with my analysis of our specific infrastructure needs." Industry best practices. Right? I kept my voice neutral. Funny thing is, that's almost exactly the approach I outlined in that memo I sent to Rachel last year, the one about maintaining operational security during upgrades. I mean, great minds think alike, right? Adrian forced a laugh. "Besides, implementation is everything. Having the idea is one thing, getting executive buy-in is another." That stung because it was true. I'd been suggesting similar improvements for years, but I'd never been able to package them in language that made executives lean forward and nod. I spoke in technical specifications and risk assessments. Adrian spoke in business outcomes and strategic advantages. "Look, Henry," Adrian said, glancing around to make sure we weren't being overheard. "I want you to know I really appreciate all the background you've given me. You're the reason I understand these systems well enough to propose improvements. When this project gets approved, I'm definitely going to make sure you're recognized for your contributions." "Appreciated, but not credited," I said. "That's not fair. I've mentioned collaboration with the infrastructure team in every presentation. Collaboration with the infrastructure team. Not Henry Pierce spent 3 weeks teaching me everything he knows about these systems." Adrian's face reddened. "Come on, man. We're on the same side here. Your expertise, my business development skills, we make a good team." There was that word again, team. Like we were partners, when really I was the unpaid consultant and he was the guy getting credit for the final product. That evening, I came home to find Lisa at the kitchen table with a stack of bills and her laptop open to Emily's medical school portal. "How bad is it?" I asked, settling into the chair across from her. "Emily's spring semester tuition is due next week. $30,000. I felt that familiar knot in my stomach. "What about the education loan that covers half? We need to come up with the other $15,000. I pulled out my phone and opened our banking app. Checking account, $8,200. Savings, $12,424 wipe out, most of our emergency fund. And Ryan's fall semester is coming up. His tuition went up another $2,000. Lisa had that look on her face, the one she got when she was trying to solve a problem that didn't have a good solution. We'd been married 28 years, and I knew that look well. I could pick up some freelance consulting work on weekends. I offered. "You're already working 50-hour weeks. When would you have time?" She was right. Between my regular job and being on call for emergencies, I barely had time to breathe, much less take on additional work. "There's something else," Lisa said. "Mom called today. Her physical therapist thinks she might need another surgery on her hip. If that happens, she'll need full-time care for at least 6 weeks." Lisa's mother had moved in with us the previous year after her first hip surgery. Lisa had cut her teaching hours in half to help with her care, which meant we'd lost about $18,000 in annual income. If her mother needed another surgery, Lisa might have to take unpaid leave. "We'll figure it out," I said, but I wasn't sure how. At 58, I should have been thinking about retirement planning, not scrambling to cover college tuition and medical expenses. My 401 key was decent, but not great. Too many years of prioritizing immediate family needs over long-term savings. The pension from Summit would help, but only if I could make it to 62 without any major financial catastrophes. "Maybe it's time to have a conversation with Rachel about that promotion you've been waiting for," Lisa suggested. I'd been hoping for a promotion to senior principal engineer for 3 years. It would mean a $15,000 salary bump and better positioning for my final few years before retirement. But every time the position opened up, it seemed to get filled by someone with an MBA and a talent for PowerPoint presentations. "I'll talk to her next week," I said. The next Monday, I made an appointment with Rachel to discuss my career development. I'd prepared a list of my contributions over the past year, including the infrastructure improvements that Adrian had packaged into his digital transformation initiative. I've been thinking about my trajectory here. I began when we sat down in her office. "I know the senior principal engineer position opened up again last quarter." "Right," Rachel said. "That's actually something I've been meaning to discuss with you. We decided to restructure that role into more of a digital transformation liaison position. Someone who can bridge the gap between our legacy infrastructure and new technological initiatives. That sounds like exactly what I've been doing with Adrian." Well, yes and no. The role requires someone who can speak both technical and business languages fluently. Someone who can present to executive committees and interface with external consulting partners. I could see where this was going. Someone like Adrian. Adrian brings a unique skill set. But Henry, your institutional knowledge is absolutely critical to the success of these initiatives. We couldn't do any of this modernization work without your expertise. Critical expertise worth keeping around, but apparently not worth promoting. "What would that look like for me, career-wise?" I asked. "We're creating a new senior infrastructure specialist role. It would recognize your technical leadership while allowing you to focus on what you do best. A lateral move with a fancy title. I'd seen this play before." "Would there be any compensation adjustment?" "We're still working out the details, but probably a modest increase, maybe 3 to 4%. 3% of my current salary was about $2,400 a year before taxes. That worked out to maybe $150 extra per month. Enough to cover our increased grocery budget, but not enough to make a dent in college tuition." That afternoon, Adrian stopped by my desk. "Heard you had a good meeting with Rachel," he said. "She mentioned you're going to be the senior infrastructure specialist for my digital transformation team." My digital transformation team, not our team. His team. She mentioned something like that. I said, "This is going to be great, Henry. Your expertise, my strategic vision, we're going to modernize this entire operation." I looked at this 29-year-old kid who'd spent 16 months learning everything I knew, who was now going to be my technical superior on projects built from my own recommendations, and I realized something important. I was never going to be valued here the way I deserved. Not at my age, not with my background, not in a company that prioritized presentation skills over real expertise. That's when the retention bonus email landed in my inbox. The email came from Rachel on Tuesday morning, March 23rd. Subject line, "Investing in our future retention program announcement. Corporate speak for we're hemorrhaging talent and need to stop the exodus before our best people walk away." The email was full of buzzwords about competitive retention packages and investing in key personnel. Rachel was scheduling individual calls to discuss customized compensation adjustments for critical team members. I wasn't particularly worried. 20 years of institutional knowledge, flawless track record of keeping critical systems running. Relationships with every contractor and vendor we dealt with. Plus, at 58, I was getting close enough to retirement that the company would want to keep me around to train my eventual replacement. Rachel called me Wednesday afternoon. "Henry," she said, her video background showing that generic office bookshelf everyone uses now. "I want to start by saying how much we value your contributions. You've been absolutely critical to our operational stability, especially during all these infrastructure transitions. Long pause. In corporate America, everything before the word but is just throat clearing. We're excited to offer you a retention bonus of $40,000 paid over 6 months, contingent on an 18-month commitment agreement. $40,000. I stared at my screen, trying to process the number. My first thought wasn't gratitude. It was math, cold, hard family finance math. Emily's medical school was costing us $60,000 a year. Ryan's tuition had just gone up to $32,000. 2 kids in higher education, plus Lisa's reduced teaching income, plus her mother's medical expenses. We were managing, but barely. $40,000 spread over 6 months worked out to about $6,700 extra per month before taxes. Maybe $5,000 take home. Not nothing, but not life-changing either. Certainly not enough to make the college tuition burden feel manageable. That's generous, I said carefully. Can I review the full terms of the agreement? Of course. I'll send everything over this afternoon. Just let me know by Friday if you're ready to move forward. Will do. After we hung up, I sat in my home office feeling oddly deflated. 20 years of rock-solid performance. Of being the guy they called when systems crashed. Of training new employees and mentoring junior staff. And this was my value to the company, $40,000 to stick around for 18 more months. I was still processing that feeling when Adrian messaged me on Teams an hour later. Dude, just got off a call with Rachel. They really came through. Check this out. He sent a screenshot. Clean, unredacted, no attempt to hide it. Probably excited and wanting to share good news with someone who'd understand the company context. $80,000. Same structure, 6-month payment schedule, same 18-month commitment requirement, but $80,000 instead of $40,000, a difference of $40,000, more than my entire annual bonus for the past 4 years combined. I read the screenshot 3 times, hoping I'd misunderstood something. Different role classifications, maybe. Different market rates for transformation specialists versus infrastructure engineers. Something. Told you they know talent when they see it. Adrian added in a follow-up message. I closed Teams without responding. I needed time to think. That evening, Lisa found me sitting at the kitchen table with a calculator, working through numbers. College tuition projections, our monthly budget, retirement savings that had been stagnant for 3 years because every extra dollar went toward family expenses. How did your call with Rachel go? She asked, settling into the chair across from me with her evening tea. They offered me a retention bonus. That's wonderful. How much? $40,000 spread over 6 months. Lisa nodded, doing the same math I'd done earlier. Every bit helps with Emily's expenses. Adrian got $80,000. She stopped mid-sip, set her mug down carefully. Lisa had been married to me for 28 years. She knew the significance of that number without me having to explain it. The kid you've been training, the same one. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Lisa has always been better at processing this kind of information than me. Military training teaches you to compartmentalize problems, but this wasn't a technical problem with a technical solution. What are you going to do? She finally asked. I don't know yet, but that wasn't entirely true. Part of me already knew. The next morning, I reviewed Adrian's recent project presentations, the ones I'd helped him understand and develop, spearheading digital transformation initiatives, leading legacy system modernization strategy, driving innovation across defense operations. My technical knowledge, my system insights, my 20 years of institutional memory, all repackaged in MBA language that made executives lean forward and nod approvingly. I also pulled my performance reviews from the past 3 years. Consistently exceeds expectations. Critical to operational stability. Prevents costly downtime through proactive system maintenance. Invaluable institutional knowledge. Go-to person for complex technical challenges. Invaluable institutional knowledge worth $40,000, MBA presentation skills worth $80,000. The math was pretty clear. Thursday night came faster than I wanted. Fiscal year-end was always our highest stress period. Our biggest Pentagon contract, a $75 million guidance system project, had final deliverables due by midnight Friday. 3 days of round-the-clock operations. Everything running at maximum capacity, no room for error. I'd worked every major deadline for the past 15 years, not because I was officially on call, but because I was the one person who could diagnose and fix problems fast enough to keep us on schedule. It had become an unspoken expectation. Henry will handle whatever comes up. Lisa kissed me goodnight at 11 p.m. Try to get some sleep before the chaos starts, she said.
I will.
At 11:47 p.m., I got the first alert. Database synchronization between our primary systems and backup servers was lagging. Not catastrophic yet, but trending in the wrong direction. The kind of early warning that if you catch it fast enough, stays invisible to everyone except the person watching the monitors. By midnight, data processing had slowed by 20%. Quality control reports were taking 4 minutes longer per batch. Doesn't sound like much until you multiply it by 15,000 components that needed final inspection before delivery. We were looking at a potential 12-hour delay in fulfillment, enough to miss shipping deadlines that would trigger penalty clauses in our Pentagon contract. I traced the issue back to a performance optimization script that Adrian had implemented the week before. His AI-enhanced efficiency initiative, another one of those projects that looked great in PowerPoint presentations. The script was supposed to improve processing times during normal operations, and it did. Technically, under light load, database queries ran 18% faster. The problem was that nobody had stress-tested it under fiscal year deadline volume. Adrian's optimization was creating bottlenecks when thousands of concurrent transactions hit the system simultaneously. The database was essentially choking on its own efficiency improvements. I had two options. Roll back the optimization, which would fix the immediate problem but require taking the system down for 15 minutes during our most critical deadline, or implement a workaround that would keep us limping along until Monday when we could address it properly during maintenance hours. For 20 years, I'd chosen the fix. Take the short-term pain to prevent long-term disaster. Minimize downtime, maintain stability, keep the lights on. That's what infrastructure engineers do. We eat the stress so everyone else can sleep soundly. My phone rang at 12:23 a.m. Rachel, her voice tight with stress. Henry, I'm seeing alerts on the dashboard. What's happening? I explained the situation. Technical details, root cause, remediation options, estimated time to resolution. The same calm, professional breakdown I'd given dozens of times over the years. How bad is it? Rachel asked. Can it wait until morning? It'll get worse. We'll start missing delivery deadlines by 6 a.m. if I don't fix it now. Adrian mentioned this optimization was supposed to improve system performance. Of course he had. Probably took credit for the 18% improvement in normal query times without mentioning that he'd never stress-tested it under load. It works fine under normal conditions, I said. Breaks under stress. Can you fix it without taking the system down? Not safely. I can patch it temporarily, but we'll hit the same problem again during peak hours. Do what you have to do, but keep the downtime minimal. This contract is too important to mess up. I implemented the fix, monitored the system for 30 minutes to confirm it held, and documented everything in the incident log. System performance returned to normal. Crisis averted. Another successful save that would never make it into a performance review or executive summary. At 2:15 a.m., Adrian sent me a Teams message. Heard there was some excitement tonight. You got it handled? Like he was checking on a basketball score. Casual, detached, completely disconnected from the 3 hours of stress I just endured to fix his broken code. Fixed, I replied. Awesome. That's what I told Rachel when she called that you'd take care of it. We make a good team, man. That word hit me like ice water. The royal we that takes ownership of success while delegating the actual work to someone else. Jonathan had told Rachel that he would take care of the crisis, using the collective we to claim responsibility for work he couldn't do, problems he couldn't solve, expertise he didn't possess. At 2:47 a.m., another alert fired. Different system, same underlying issue. Adrian's optimization script was creating cascade failures across multiple database connections. The warehouse management system was struggling to sync with inventory controls. Our quality control dashboard was showing timeout errors. 3 critical systems, all choking on the same improvement that had looked so good in testing. I had the same 2 options as before. Implement individual patches for each affected system, or roll back Adrian's entire optimization package and take everything down for 15 minutes during our busiest deadline of the year. I sat at my workstation looking at the error logs, thinking about that Teams message. We make a good team. Thinking about performance reviews that praised my institutional knowledge while paying me $40,000 less than the person who'd broken the system I was fixing. Thinking about 20 years of 3 a.m. phone calls and weekend emergencies and holiday coverage that had somehow been valued at half what a 29-year-old consultant was worth. The Marines taught me about duty, about mission-critical systems, and the responsibility that comes with keeping them running. But they also taught me about leadership, about recognizing when a command structure is fundamentally broken. When leadership decisions consistently prioritize appearance over substance, flash over competence, presentation skills over actual ability to perform under pressure, the system becomes unsustainable. I could fix this crisis. I could patch these systems, implement workarounds, keep everything running through the deadline. I could work another 20 hours straight to clean up the mess that Adrian's $80,000 optimization project had created. And on Monday morning, he'd probably get thanked for his proactive performance improvements while I'd get another incident ticket in my queue. At 3:12 a.m., I made a different choice. I stood up from my workstation, unplugged my headset, left my laptop open with alert notifications still firing across the screen, walked out of my home office, and closed the door behind me. For the first time in 20 years, I let someone else's problem stay someone else's problem. Lisa found me in the kitchen an hour later, sitting at the table with a cup of coffee, staring out the window at the empty street. "Can't sleep?" she asked. I walked away. She sat down across from me, still in her bathrobe, 28 years of marriage, and she could read my face better than any diagnostic screen. From the crisis? From all of it. By 6 a.m. Friday, my phone had 47 missed calls. Adrian's optimization script had triggered a complete system meltdown. The $75 million Pentagon contract was in jeopardy. Order processing was offline. Quality assurance couldn't track production metrics. Summit's entire fiscal year deliverable had ground to a halt. Scott Miller, our VP of Engineering, called at 7:30 a.m. "Henry, we need you online immediately. This is a company-critical situation. I understand. How quickly can you get the systems back up? I'm not working today." Silence. Long enough that I thought the call had dropped. This isn't about vacation policies, Henry. The entire fiscal year deliverable is at risk. We're looking at potential penalties that could cost us millions. Sounds serious. You should get your digital transformation specialist on it. I hear he got an $80,000 retention bonus. Adrian doesn't have your system knowledge. Then you should have thought about that before assigning retention bonuses. Scott's voice shifted, got harder. "We'll discuss this Monday." "Henry, sure," I said and hung up. By noon, the crisis had escalated beyond Summit's walls. The Pentagon was asking pointed questions about delivery timelines and system reliability. 2 other defense contractors were offering to step in as backup suppliers. Summit's stock price dropped 8% on rumors of operational problems and contract delays. Rachel called at 2:30 p.m. Her voice was strained, exhausted. "Henry, we need to talk. I'm listening. What's it going to take to get you back online?" Finally, the question someone should have asked 20 years ago. Compensation that reflects actual value instead of presentation skills. Recognition that 20 years of experience has worth. A structure that doesn't punish competence while rewarding corporate theater. I can't make compensation changes over a weekend. Then it sounds like you have a weekend problem. I hung up and turned off my phone. Monday morning, I submitted my resignation via email, effective immediately. I'd already accepted an offer from Nicole Parker at Patriot Aerospace Technologies. 45% salary increase, $25,000 signing bonus, full pension transfer, and a clear path to senior management within 2 years. Most importantly, a company that valued experience alongside innovation. The aftermath at Summit was swift and predictable. Adrian worked 84 straight hours that weekend. Probably learned more about our systems in those 4 days than in his previous 16 months. But you can't replace 20 years of institutional knowledge in a weekend. The Pentagon moved 40% of their contracts to competitors. 3 other major clients renegotiated contracts with stricter requirements and higher penalty clauses. The retention bonus program was quietly suspended. Rachel was reassigned to a consulting role. Scott survived, but barely. Adrian lasted 6 more months. He wasn't incompetent, just inexperienced and overconfident. Last I heard, he's at another consulting firm, probably teaching companies about digital transformation from the safety of PowerPoint slides. I've been at Patriot for 8 months. They promoted me to Senior Director of Defense Systems Integration. My team has 14 engineers. Emily finished her 3rd year with a 3.8 GPA. Ryan's starting his senior year next month. The financial stress isn't gone, but it's manageable now. Sometimes loyalty has to be mutual to be meaningful. A company that values your contributions at $40,000 while paying someone else $80,000 for recycling your work isn't a place that deserves your best efforts. Walking away at 3:12 a.m. wasn't about ego or revenge. It was about finally understanding my worth and refusing to accept anything less. Sometimes the best career decision you can make is knowing when to stop solving other people's problems for free. Your experience has value. Don't let anyone convince you that knowing how to do the job is worth less than knowing how to talk about doing the job.